Hi everyone. So I'm really excited to be making this video for you. If you are watching this, then you are some sort of mental health provider or in training, practicing psychiatrist somewhere in there, and you're interested in starting a private practice, specifically an integrative private practice. So doing what I am so fortunate as to do, which is combining traditional allopathic psychiatric approaches with Eastern principles and with holistic, alternative, complementary strategies. So what you might not know about me if you are only used to seeing my blog or social media content or kind of most of what I write or talk about is that business is actually a huge passion of mine. And in fact, I struggle to find anyone who will talk to me about it because most psychiatrists, to their detriment, have zero interest in business practices. And it's almost like a dirty word to be good at business. Like, as if don't care about patients, you're money grubbing, or you're just succumbing to market pressures. But I find for myself that market pressures are what drive me to be an excellent psychiatrist. If you just have a job, there's so much demand for psychiatrists that you can be pretty average and get a job. Like, you can be subpar and get a job. You certainly don't have to be exceptional at what you do to have a job. To be successful in private practice, especially to charge high fees and to have like a cash-based, outside of the insurance model practice, you have to be exceptional. And I'm not talking about, oh, you just prescribe every patient benzos who wants them. That's not what I do at all, or what you need to do or should do. But you have to deliver at such a high level that patients are happy to pay you, and then they keep coming back and they refer all their friends to you. And that has, more than any of my formal training, been what's really driven me to just be the best physician I can be. So I recently put out a survey to people who are in the Facebook group for psychiatry mentorship or on my email list who have expressed interest in this topic. And if you haven't done the survey, I'm going to link to it somewhere around this video, because if you fill it out, then you get to be invited to a webinar. I'm just going to do like a Q&A just with people who filled it out, answering questions that you may have about starting your own practices. So make sure to fill that out. But anyway, so some of the questions I got, I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm just going to read a few. So just in general, what's the future of psychiatry? How will mid-levels in the changing structure of healthcare delivery impact the field? And then a lot of questions. I want to establish a psychiatry practice that takes an integrative approach, integrating things like natural supplementation, nutrition, meditation, yoga. Another question, how do I incorporate integrative psychiatry into my private practice? What are the protocols? How do you treat the various conditions? How do I build a successful private practice? How did you learn the business model to get out on your own, managing debt, providing on a sliding scale if you want to do that? The logistics are scary. So I'm going to just touch on some basic principles that are going to help you if this is something interesting to you. So first, I just want to share a vision of what's possible for you, because I have the best job ever. I love my work. When I had freaking relapse of leukemia and had a stem cell transplant, I only took 3 months off. I even had some phone calls with patients in the hospital. And this is not because I felt pressure to. I genuinely like what I do so much that, when everything else was going terribly in my life with my health, it was something I could hold on to, and just the amount of rewarding feelings I get from patients telling me how they get better, makes it worthwhile. And just to tell you kind of an overall of what I love about private practice. First of all, totally rewarding. When you do integrative psychiatry, you have so many more tools in your tool belt than just prescription medications. And even therapy. I do therapy, but that's just a couple of parts of it. And I'm actually going to screen share right now the page on my private practice website with some of the offerings that I have with my patients. Okay, so I'm here on my private practice website, and I just want to show you some of the offerings that I have. And so, service offerings. medication management, obviously, therapy, of course. Mostly I do CBT and lifestyle coaching. I help people with their sleep, nutrition, exercise. I go really in depth with things like circadian rhythms and functional nutrition approaches, herbal and plant-based medicines. So using things like St. John's worts or other herbal supplements that have either mood stabilizing or antidepressant or anti-anxiety uh, properties. I do all sorts of advanced testing, and at some point I can go over in more detail how I order and interpret these tests, but I do functional nutritional testing. I do advanced hormonal testing, salivary cortisol, salivary melatonin, gut microbiome testing, food allergy and sensitivity testing, genetic testing. You probably do things like Genemind. I do that along with some other panels. Mind body medicine. I teach meditation, mindfulness. I use things like heart rate variability training, and I help patients integrate psychedelic experiences. So people who have used things like psilocybin, LSD, ketamine, MDMA, and have had kind of a profound spiritual experiences, helping them integrate those lessons into their daily life. So all of this is incredibly rewarding, and don't feel intimidated. I didn't learn all this stuff overnight. I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about what are the first steps you should take if you're interested in being able to do these kinds of things. Now, number 2 of what I love about my work is that I'm highly compensated for doing it. I set my own fees, I charge a lot, and I don't have to work that many hours to make a good living. And because of that, I can provide really in-depth care to my patients, and I can be available to them if they need me, and I don't have to be cutting them off right at whatever the 15-minute mark. And that allows me to have a lot more bandwidth to provide good care because I don't have to work a gazillion hours. Because what I do and what you can do too if you practice integrative psychiatry is so specialized, there are not that many people that can do it. So you can charge a lot more than the average psychiatrist. Now, number 3 of what I love about my work is that I have total autonomy. I have total freedom control over the hours that I work, the number of patients that I have, the amount of contact between appointments that I have with patients, when I'm on, when I'm off, the type of documentation I do. There's no bureaucracy. There's no, it's coming from the higher ups. You have to fill out these 16 checkboxes every time you open someone's medical chart. Or, yeah, this doesn't make sense, but you gotta do these weird rounds that no one really cares about. And there's just none of the stuff that would drive me kind of crazy when I worked in an academic setting. I mean, this was residency, so I loved residency, and obviously you're a little bit at the bottom of the totem pole, but I personally couldn't wait to get out of kind of a bureaucratic setting and be able to go out on my own. And none of this is to say that there aren't challenges of being in a private practice, but what I love about it is that any problem I can solve. If there's a problem, I can just solve it. I feel like I'm getting too many calls on the weekends. This happened to me. I just told everyone, I'm sorry, I'm no longer available after hours. Just changed my message, I only am available these hours. I feel like I'm in my email inbox all the time because of scheduling and rescheduling. I just set up a electronic scheduling, auto scheduling. So I just email patients the link and they can reschedule, cancel their own appointments on their own time. Billing is super easy because I just set up, I take credit cards. I just literally click a button at the end of the appointment. I'm not mailing people bills or any of this. It's all very automated and efficient. And I didn't come to that overnight. I had to build that over a couple of years. But basically, problems are a lot more tolerable when it's in your power to solve them, which when you work in an institutional setting, you don't necessarily have that autonomy. And I just have amazing relationships with my patients. So when I had my stem cell transplant, I basically had to close my practice. So this is really devastating. I built it up over 2 years or something like that. So I was full. I filled after maybe a year, and then it was oh my God, I have to do this again. So, you know, I had to refer everyone out. Like there were some patients that were super stable that I was just like, you know, got coverage for them. And then I was like, I'll start seeing you again in 3 months. But even the patients that I referred out to other people, like all trickled back to me. Like they waited for me because we just had such a good relationship. They felt like I was helping them so much. And it's like, it's not that I'm so special and that this is something you can't do. It's that when you have your own practice and you have so many more tools in your tool belt than just a traditional psychiatrist of like, I'm gonna prescribe Zoloft or lithium or whatever, you can help people so much more. They're so much happier. Then you don't have to work so many hours. And like, life is good. And whatever you want to do with that extra time and extra money is up to you. For me, I love working, so I work a lot. I'm writing a book. I do online courses and social media stuff. For you, do you have a family? Do you have kids? Do you have hobbies? Like, you can put your extra time and attention toward whatever you want once you've set up your dream practice. So example with the fees, I generally don't even accept sliding scale, and at some point I'll tell you why that is. It's because patients who ask for sliding scale are usually not great patients. But something that I did, for example, recently was, you know, because I charge so much for most of for my patients, I have extra time to donate. I'll just donate my time where I feel like it would be really valuable. So just a couple weeks ago, someone reached out to me who had a patient or client. This was a therapist who had terminal cancer and knew I had some experience using psychedelics to deal with end-of-life anxiety. So I drove to Orange County. I'm in Los Angeles. And I spent the day with a shaman and this woman helping her process her impending death. And I just got an email from her therapist that the experience helped her so much and that she's since passed and she had so much more peace with the process. And so I just, you know, donated an 8-hour a day to do that. And that's the kind of stuff you can do if the patients who can afford it, you're charging them more. Okay, now I'm just gonna go over, as an introduction, some basic principles of if you wanna go down this path, how do you need to be thinking about it? Okay, number one, you need to get over the idea you need another degree or another certification in order to get started practicing integrative medicine. This is a trap that we all get caught into because we're uber professionals. We have like 6 degrees. You know, we're just used to like, well, I need like more letters after my name. If you're watching this, you either already have the letters you need or you're about to get them. You do not need any more formal certifications or even fellowships. You don't need to do an integrative psychiatry fellowship or integrative medicine fellowship. You can, but like I haven't, for example, and I'm just now doing the Institute of Functional Medicine training and I'm like 4 years in. So the mindset shift you need is learning by doing, okay? So let me tell you an example of when I started my practice. Because I was recovering from cancer the first time, I literally not practiced medicine in like 4 years. So I was really rusty. So as rusty as you think you are about like, well, I don't know, integrative medicine, I forgot how to prescribe Prozac. I mean, I forgot like the basics. So I was terrified. So the first patient calls me to come to the appointment. She's like, I have trichotillomania. Do you treat that? Do you specialize in that? I'm like, definitely, blah, 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 like, you know, use a combination of this and that. She's like, great, made the appointment for a couple of days later, got off the phone. I spent 3 days researching trichotillomania. And then by the time she came in, I was an expert because I read like books about it. I had looked up all of the nutritional supplementation that's done for trichotillomania, and I made a little protocol. And then I tried it with her. You know, we started one thing, then another thing, and then I adjusted based on what she was responding to. And you may feel like, wait, is that disingenuous? What if I overpromise? Well, you want to overpromise a little bit and then rise to the occasion and deliver that and even more. That's how I improved and learned over the years. And the relationship you have with patients protects you from your own imperfections. I remember when I was in residency, it's like drilled into you. You have to document perfectly and you can't make any mistakes or you're gonna get sued or something like that. If you have a good relationship with your patients, you're not immune to that, but you're probably not gonna get sued. They know you're a human being. It's when you treat them disrespectfully or ignore their complaints or minimize them is when they get upset, not when you make a mistake or when you tell them, you know what, I'm not sure, but I'm going to look that up and get back to you, okay? So having that excellent rapport allows you to go through a learning process where you are growing in parallel to you delivering excellent care. Number two is you need to learn the difference between evidence-based medicine and evidence-informed medicine. One thing that drives me completely insane is when I hear someone who doesn't, like a doctor, who doesn't really know what they're talking about, saying like, well, is that evidence-based? You know, I'm like, I don't know, what's the research on that? And it's like, okay, first of all, evidence-based, I just want you to remove that word from your vocabulary because it's so not nuanced. It's as if it's binary and it's either evidence-based or not. The word you want to use, or the term, is evidence-informed. So if you're recommending a treatment that has potentially high toxicity, high side effects, and or is very expensive, so something like ECT or an antipsychotic, then yeah, you want to be pretty sure there's good evidence for it because the downside is relatively moderate to high. If you're recommending something that has little to no downside, then you do not need the same burden of proof in order to feel comfortable and safe recommending it to your patients. And in fact, you can defer to their belief system when it comes to you recommending treatments. So I personalize things to patients. I have now intake forms that ask all these questions, but it used to be kind of, and then I also feel it out in the initial session of what's your belief system surrounding this or that, or what do you attribute your symptoms to? And you'd be surprised what people answer. And then I kind of give them what they want, not irresponsibly, and I make sure I'm also, giving them what they need to, so if someone's really hesitant about medications, but they really seem like they need it, I will spend a lot of time kind of having the conversation with them. But if they also believe in homeopathy, I will recommend some homeopathy. I literally do not understand why a doctor would ever be against homeopathy because it's literally a sugar pill. There's, by definition, and I'm not talking about naturopathic medicine, that's a different thing. I'm talking specifically about homeopathy. I'm not going to get into the details of it, you can look it up, but it's basically a sugar pill. So at worst, you're getting a placebo response. And this is the other thing, you have to, the term placebo response, it can no longer be a dirty word. Think of it as meaning and context factors. So just being present for your patients is going to help them. Offering them hope, like you will get better, okay? I'm gonna be here with you and you're gonna get better. When I say that to patients after the first appointment, you just see like their body relax, like, okay, they already feel better. When you're offering them treatments that align with their belief system, they feel respected and heard, they're gonna get better. So that's, to me, evidence-based, evidence-based, evidence-informed. So you're not gonna not recommend alternative or holistic treatments that are neutral. You're not gonna recommend ones that are harmful, but remember the burden of proof is lower if there's very little to no harm associated with the intervention. Now next, and this kind of is like the final point, which is that if you want to do this, you have to surround yourself with the right people and get guidance from the right people. If you are in a traditional academic center, institutional center, people will not understand integrative psychiatry or integrative medicine. And there's a lot of judgy comments from people who don't know what they're talking about or just haven't thought about it in a nuanced way. And I had to actually stop going on to all the psychiatry Facebooks that I'm still a member of them, but I don't look at them anymore because there'd just be so much judgment of this is what this other community psychiatrist did. Should I report them? And it's like, oh my God, are you guys insane? It's like, don't do anything irresponsible, but you're there to serve your patients. You're not there to serve a research study that says something different from what the patient in front of you is telling you is their experience. So you have to surround yourself with people who have an entrepreneurial mindset, who are okay with the idea of submitting themselves to market pressures with the goal of it's going to help them improve, that are okay with thinking outside of the box in a responsible way, who understand the nuances of evidence-informed medicine, and who are willing to grow and be uncomfortable and be imperfect, knowing that the relationship you have with your patients will protect you. Now, a reminder, if you haven't already, submit the survey questions. Basically, it's like a 2-question Google survey of who are you, what stage of your medical, psychiatric, mental health training are you in, and then what are the biggest questions you have about having your dream career. And if you answer that, it's going to help me know kind of what content to make for you, and then I will invite you to the Q&A, the live Q&A I'm gonna have, where I will answer your specific questions. There's so much I know about this stuff, you guys, and I'm dying to talk to someone about it because no one else will listen to me. No psychiatrists are interested in Vince's stuff, and this is like what I live and breathe, and you might not know that because I don't talk about it generally because patients aren't interested. But yeah, fill out that survey, and then I'll follow up with you about scheduling the Q&A call, and I'll go over during this call some of the specific protocols that I've developed over time for things like bipolar disorder, bipolar spectrum, anxiety disorders, PTSD or trauma disorders, depression, and also I treat like chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic Lyme, things like that. So I can teach you guys about that on the call. So look forward to seeing you soon.